How's it going, guys? So today we're going to be breaking down a trade that I took earlier this morning. So without further ado, let's just get straight to it. So pros and cons of this trade. For one, this is a loss. No news Monday, typical thing. However, it is not all to blame because I had made mistakes as well. But before we get into that, let's actually go over the pros and cons. I followed majority of the plan to the T, right? So I established a bias. We had a sweep liquidity. We had additional confluences. We were making the same gaps. We had addressed most of the counter confluences, not all of them. We traded within macro. So when it comes to most of my checklist, I did not account for counter confluences and a displacement on both ES and NQ. Now, you can get away without displacement on both, but honestly, it does degrade quality. I did follow my Monday rules. I did lower my risk. I only lost $160 today. I have a 150K account. That is barely 0.1%. So I'm not tripping. I manage my risk pretty damn well. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and break down the trade in the journal. Okay, this was a B setup. Could have been better. Okay, I know it says 90 there, but we did address some additional confluences while I was recording this video. So let's go right here. We had a degraded setup. Now it's B. So, as you guys can see, we got stopped out here, right? That's exactly how the trade played out. That's exactly where I entered. Now, why was this a big deal? Well, if you look on ES and NQ, we had a valid shifter structure on NQ, but not on ES. Let's go ahead and go straight to TradingView, and that way I can fully break it down further. So let's go ahead and go straight to TradingView. So first things first, as always, higher time frame bias. Now, my bias, unfortunately, was not that good. Okay, we did not have a daily bias. We were mostly neutral because we inversed this gap and we did not have any bullish gap. So daily was neutral. I will say the same for the 4 hour. Let's look at the 4 hour. We were trading out of this bullish gap. We had met the target, which was this 4 hour high. We had this bearish gap that got inversed. So our next target was this 4 hour high. We already took it. Therefore, neutral. Let's go to the 1 hour. Same could be said about the 1 hour. We traded out of this 1 hour bullish gap. We had met these targets here. There's no gap here. We had inversed this gap. So it was overwhelmingly neutral. We had broken this bearish gap here. So we can assume we're going to go for a 1 hour high, which you can argue we already took it. So 1 hour was neutral in my opinion. Let's go to the 15. We had a 15-minute gap that was still respected all the way back in time. Even right here. Those are wicks. So we are good. Got respected up to this point. So in all terms of higher time frame bias, we only had one in sync. That is not, it is enough, but quality setup is going to degrade a bit because we only had one. Now let's go ahead and go back to entry. Now, actually, before I go back to entry, I will say the same thing for ES. Look at the 1 hour. Look at how dislodged NQ and ES were. Look how we were respecting a bearish gap here and a bullish gap here at the same time. Neutral bias for the day. Okay. Let's go to the 1 hour. So now that we had entered our macro, we're going to wait for our potential entry. Now, in terms of liquidity sweeps, we have swept these equal highs here, which happen to also be Asia highs and London highs. Major form of liquidity there. We had swept some highs on the way up. Now, I'll be front with you. I actually wanted to sweep this high here. That would have been the best course of action, and I should have trusted my intuition. If we had swept this high, or at least this high, we would have been better off and taken no trades today, because it did not sweep those highs at all today. I don't think. I'll have to check. Let's go ahead and fast forward price to the trade idea. So our trade idea, there we go. So this is where our trade idea actually started to play out. So as you guys can see, we had a bearish gap on both ES and NQ. That is a requirement. Fair value gap and also on ES. Great. We did what we're supposed to do. You can get away with the shift of structure on NQ but not ES. However, I was not 100% comfortable and I still took it. I ignored my intuition. I should have not taken this trade. So I'm going to draw this line here. And you guys are going to see that is a valid shift of structure. That is a valid displacement. This is also a breakaway candle. Even better, correct? Let's go ahead and go over to ES. What did ES do? Did not break below this low or even this low. If we go over to top step, it did not do that either. So if we go over to top step to the same candle, which is right here, that is the same area. It did not displace below it. And you see how this is a bullish candle? So it was not a valid area. So let's go ahead and go back to TradingView. So at this point, I've had already entered this trade. Now, there are some things that are in our favor and not in our favor. So targeting 1 to 2 with about 10-point stop loss. What do we also have here? If we arc this high out, NQ had failed to sweep that high. We had succeeded in sweeping this high here. This is now a what? Bearish SMT between the two. Now that is a confluence for our trade. We had a bearish SMT. However, since we had failed to sweep below or break structure below this low, guess what we have now? We have a bullish SMT between the two assets. So now that is a counter confluence to our trade. So let's go ahead and fast forward the trade and see how it plays out. Boom, stop loss. So because we did not have more confluences in our favor without higher time frame bias in our favor, we lost. And I knew better. Simple as that. Now let's go ahead and break down the actual ideal trade idea. Now, this is not 100% ideal because it was still not within macro. So if you're not confined to macros, this would have been a trade that you could have taken. So we're actually going to fast forward price, and I'm going to show you a good example of a proper market structure shift that I should know better. So look at this. We displaced below this low on NQ, and we had displaced below the same low, the correlated low, on ES. You could do it at the wick or at the body. Even if you do it at the wick, we still displace below. Guess what we have? We have the gap. We have the gap on NQ. And we have the breaker block as well. And we also have an inverse gap as well on both. So we actually had a lot of confluences at this point in time. However, it was your entry would have been 2 minutes outside of macro. And this trade idea would have played out actually quite beautifully, even with the same stop loss. But let's say we do a 12-point stop loss at a 1 to 2. Yeah, see, it's going to play out. However, I believe ES took out the low, so you should have been out by this wick. But let's see if it hits a 1 to 2. There, it does, just barely. So with that being said, that is it for the video. So big thing is I did not follow the higher time frame bias, right? We really only had one in confluence. I should have waited for more in confluence. Secondly, I should have waited for this major high to get swept. That was my bad. I should have waited. I should have been more patient and more willing to wait. I need to be more selective with my trades. However, kudos. I minimized my risk because I don't like Mondays. I waited for the second macro, which is my preference for Mondays. And overall, I called myself out. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope you guys have found this valuable. If you guys have taken this trade too, explain why you took the trade, or if you think I was dumb for taking a trade, tell me. Anyways, hope you guys have a great day.